Disclaimer: the following content is entirely fictional and does not represent real events or people. This material has been edited and adapted from the channel Beyond the Page. I was pulled out of my peaceful sleep in my very cozy bed by a constant beeping sound. God! It was annoying. Pulling my blankets over my head, I snuggled deep into my bed in an attempt to drift into my sweet slumber, hoping to shut out that constant, irritating machine sound. Does waking up to the sounds of birds and rays of sunlight exist only in fantasy? I have always questioned the human community. Why on the earth would they invent an annoying thing like an alarm clock, which wakes you up in the most irritating way possible by blaring right at your face when you were busy enjoying your serene morning sleep? I opened my tired eyes, which were probably red around the edges because of the midnight Netflix binge, and saw the angry red letters of the alarm clock flashing 7:0 a.m. at me. Bella, get your butt out of your bed right now before I come upstairs and drag your ass to the bathroom myself. The threat from downstairs drained me of any residual sleep. "I'm up. I'm up," I yelled back, groaning. I hated Monday mornings, and I hated it when people wished me good mornings on Monday mornings. Good and Mondays could never be in the same statement. Never. I was a heavy sleeper. Not a I wake after a few calls heavy sleeper. But a I won't even flinch if a lightning stuck a few inch away from me heavy sleeper. I fall into that category of people who can sleep for more than 12 hours straight and still wake up tired and sleep again because of the tiredness. I stayed in the bed facing the ceiling, not wanting to leave the comfort of my mattress and duvet. Warm rays of sunlight seeped into the room through the small openings on the window curtain, lightening the room with its warm glory. Why couldn't there be a week with only 6 days in it without Mondays? Well then, you would have started hating Tuesdays. I snorted at my subconscious. No words could explain how frustrating it was to get up from your bed, in which you have spent your entire weekend, binge watching Netflix and eating whatever that was edible in your home, to go to school. Ugh. I rolled out of my bed, making my way to the bathroom, all the while muttering all the colorful curses under the sun about my lazy and not so sorry ass. A warm shower and usual morning rituals later, I wrapped myself in a towel and walked back into my room, quickly changing into a pullover and a jean. I brushed my brunette hair that reached my waist into a ponytail and applied a very little of lip gloss and mascara. After taking a last satisfying look at the girl staring back at me in the mirror, I ran down, grabbing my backpack for my morning breakfast. Ah. Thank you for blessing my morning with your gracious presence, Miss Lazy Goose. My roommate and sister by choice, Nora, glared at me, pushing a bowl of cereal towards me. I grinned back, mouthing a kiss at her. She turned around, shaking her head, smiling, resuming whatever she was doing before I came in. And we were just like that. Don't forget to lock the door, and love you. She placed a kiss on my forehead and walked out, grabbing her things from the counter. Nora was a financial consultant at a private company. Her company demanded her presence almost all the time, sometimes even on weekends. Even with all those untimely work calls and tiring schedule, she somehow managed to roam around with a happy aura which was heavily contagious. Breakfast was quick. Grabbing my backpack, I locked the front door behind me and immediately buried my hands into my jacket pocket, involuntarily shuddering due to the chilly air. You would think, having lived for 20 years in a place like Wood Springs, I would have gotten used to the cold, but that wasn't the case. Wood Springs was a small city in Washington, A regular small town with always cloudy, gloomy weather, wet roads and unusual number of dive bars. A regular town, which robbed me of a life with my parents. They died in a car crash when I was 7. Growing up in an orphanage for 11 years in the very town you grew up with your parents was not something I would wish upon my worst enemy. I moved out of the orphanage once I was 18. And a kind girl from the same orphanage as I was, Nora, took me in with her. I found a job in the local library and was able to pay my share of rent and sometimes, if possible, would also do groceries. I found a normal routine again, and here I was, running late for school. I loved to walk. Despite the cold weather that would freeze you alive if you weren't buried beneath 4 layers of clothing because 1, I couldn't afford a car or a cab, and 2, I loved observing people. Different types of people with different situations and different mindsets. All looking forward to the day to start good. End well. Waving at random small toddlers became my favorite thing. And about my school. Though most of the classes were boring, sucking up whatever stamina that was left in me, I survived them with the help of my 2 best friends, Alice and Jimmy. It was just the 3 of us, always hanging out together, laughing at inside jokes and judging people together. But most of my childhood days were consumed by a boy, Aiden. He was the only one to sit with me at dinner on my first night at the orphanage. He was the one who shared his books and toys with me, sat with me in the backyard and told me stories about stars. He was the one who took the little poor me out of the dark pit I was in after my parents' death. He was the one who left Wood Springs when I was 14 without a word and later was told that he was somewhere in Australia, adopted. There was a saying that good things never last long. Every time I let someone into life, every time I get close to them, I always ended up losing them. Alice and Jimmy were my school day ride or die friends. They were my armor. They stayed with me through my highs and lows. Always showed up with bags of snacks and shoulders to cry. They were there to make me smile. They made me feel happy. They made me love myself, and most of all, they made me believe that there was a world beyond the wall I built around myself. They were like a bright white sunshine through a small crevice at the end of a dark den, which gave me the most needed thing of my life: hope. To continue my path, no matter how hard and cruel it was. I always had 2 strong pairs of hands to lift me up whenever I fell down. Alice used to say this thing her mom used to tell her, and I quote her: "When you lose the lost string of hope that kept you bound to this world, and when you start to feel far away from everything, wait patiently. There might be someone. There would be someone looking for the exact same thing you were looking for. And that's when miracles happen." And that was the reason why I woke up every morning, looking for a meaning, a miracle, which would change everything. I owe them big time for everything they have done for me and continue to do. I had a family of my own and it was snatched from me. But I found a family again in people I call my friends. My everything. Whatever the reason might be. Even if the countries on the other part of the world have started to go down into the earth like they show in some movies. Even if a meteor was nearing Earth which could make mankind extinct, my college management wouldn't declare a holiday. I stepped into the college, dragging myself through the long lobby. Why didn't they just build classes near the entrance? In that way, we didn't have to be late for class even if we reached campus on time. Shouldering through a mass of college students, who were deaf with their headphones and blind with their cell phones on a Monday morning, who wouldn't budge even if you knocked them down with a bulldozer. I will suck up all the energy you got with your cereal breakfast. After a few bumps with shoulders and stamps on my foot, I finally reached my locker. Shoving my jacket into the locker, I grabbed the books required for today's schedule of agony. Good morning. I heard her before even I saw her. Alice Lowell. The only good morning I look forward to. I turned around to the petite blonde with the prettiest pair of green eyes I have ever seen. We tend to meet different types of people. Alice was a type of girl who could magically turn the worst moment into a happy one. She always roamed around with a brilliant smile that could light up a whole town and heart of gold. She was 1,000 rays of sunshine bottled up in a 5'4" figure, even though she was a little more skinny than I was. The hug she gave me literally crushed a couple of my ribs. Hey. She smiled, leaning against the locker next to mine, and flashing her dimples. Damn girl. The best thing about Alice was her dimples. I always envy her for that. And when her smile became a full-blown laughter, she here became a thin line and her dimples, it reached all the way up to her cheeks. It always reminded me of my mom. And honestly, I was a sucker for dimples. It has always been my favorite thing to goof around her. Do random things and crack silly jokes to make her laugh and watch her laughing. It was only a weekend. Alice, I said, smiling back. I know. But I missed you. She shrugged. Yeah, well, I missed you. My sentence was cut off in the middle and was caged by a pair of strong arms and was given another tight hug. This time crushing a couple more. The fact that a hug was given to comfort someone and not to choke and fracture them never entered their thick skulls. I wasn't complaining though. Their hugs never failed to make my day. I pulled back to regain my breath and turned to come face to chest with James Merrick, aka Jimmy. Alice and Jimmy knew each other before they knew me. I met them during my 3rd grade when I changed schools after my parents' death. We have been together since then. With a height of 6'2". He stood towering over me. The first thing you notice when you see Jimmy for the first time is his hazel eyes. A perfect mixture of hazel and gold which swirled every time you have a closer look, and long, dark eyelashes which he did not deserve. Why do even boys have lashes like that? It wasn't not like they were going to use it like we girls. For a 21-year-old, he was pretty muscular. Add that to the dangerous combination of always tousled brunette hair and perfect pair of hazel eyes. He never failed to turn a few heads wherever he went and charm the life out of people. But his tricks worked neither on Alice nor me. And should never forget to mention his filterless mouth. It was as if he lacked connection between his brain and mouth. He never thought twice before speaking and ended up with 1 or 2 bruises from Alice. Like today. Jimmy said something about Alice's choice of outfit for today. Not in a good way. Which he should never have done, and that, obviously, made Alice angry. And when Alice and angry were in the same sentence. You run and never look back. He didn't. Never question a woman's fashion sense. You moron. I could see fumes coming out of her nose and ears as she walked towards him and smacked the back of his head. Hard. Aw. Easy girl. He jumped back, rubbing the sore area. If it was for an outsider, a girl like Alice with 54 and a skinny body throwing such a hit on grown-up but not so grown-up guys would look unnatural. But not for me. No. Actually, they should be. After all, They were werewolves. Wait. What? Did I say werewolves? Funny. One would think I've gone nuts. They don't exist. Right. Right. I mean, we've read about them in stories and heard about in lores. But to say that they exist among us. Yes. That's exactly what I was saying. They did exist. I've never believed that those fantasy creatures existed until I met them. I've known about them ever since I knew them. At first, I thought it was some detailed prank. But eventually I came to know that that wasn't the case. It took me more than a year to come to terms with the fact that my friends were supernatural creatures. And trust me, I didn't take it easily. I mean, come on. No one was going to believe that something they have seen only in books and novels existed in real life. I never told anyone about this. Not even Nora, and I was determined to take it with me to the grave. They trusted me with a secret that could put their lives in danger, and carrying such a secret around it did nothing but strengthen our friendship. It amazed me very much when I came to know about their world. I started thinking that every person I see might be a werewolf. They told me a few werewolf things. Like their moon goddess. How they shift when they turn 18 or 16 in case of an alpha and their shifting process. How they get an inner wolf when they shift. Their positions in the pack like alpha, beta, gamma, delta, pack warriors, etc. And of course, the mates. I've always been fascinated about this mate thing. A mate is actually someone their moon goddess chooses for a person with whom they are destined to live forever. They are bound to live together, love each other and die together. If one among them died or got rejected, it will leave the same or similar impact on the other one. Alice and Jimmy belong to the Dark Red Moon Pack, which is the only pack in Wood Springs and the biggest pack in the USA. They both shifted a year ago. Alice found her mate during her 18th birthday. I haven't met her mate yet, but she told me that his name was John and that he was the beta of her pack. That made her beta female. Second in command. She would make an amazing and perfect beta female. Jimmy hasn't found his mate. He was third in command of his pack. A gamma. Usually. Those who held ranks in a pack tend to find their mates quicker than other members of the pack. He used to say that his mate must be dead, which earned him a slap and punch from me and Alice. And as for me, I never was in a serious relationship. I have dated few guys, but nothing lasted more than a few months. Something has always held me back. Maybe the fear of another heartbreak. After everything I've lost, I was afraid of letting people into my life. I didn't get attached to people that easily. I took time. A lot of it. And once I let them in, I could never leave them. Because when they chose to walk out of your life, it would hurt like hell and tear down every last string of hope you had. Compared to the human world, finding mates and getting to live them seemed easy. Once you find your other half, you could not walk away. You could not hurt them. Because you would feel their pain, and that reduced a lot of trouble and hurting. I wanted someone who I could love endlessly and be loved back. A person who would never leave me no matter how hard life gets. Someone who would stand under the pouring rain with me and enjoy it. Someone you can't imagine being without. A person you believe was worth sticking with and fighting for. This was my daily routine. Get up tired. Bath and eat in a hurry. Run to college. Stay tired throughout college. Go home. Sleep early. And wake up the next morning. Tired. The only thing that pushed me to get up and walk to school was the quality time I got to spend with Alice and Jimmy. According to my darn schedule, I didn't have any classes with my friends other than physics. I have to deal with every single torture sessions on my own. But we would hang around in the cafeteria or in the library. In between classes. Just doing our things. In each other's presence. It wasn't like I hated all the subjects in my schedule. It was just that the teachers in my college always sported I would be anywhere but here look, which was heavily contagious. After our usual chit-chats, we headed towards our respective classes, planning to meet again for lunch. The class was almost full and I craned my neck, hoping to get a free seat. At last I found an empty seat next to a blonde girl. "Hey. Is this seat taken?" I asked the girl, pointing to the chair next to her. She gave me a warm smile and said, "No. You should take it," she said, eyeing a loud guy, standing behind our desk. I sat next to her, and I introduced myself. "Hi. I am Bella Hunt." I extended my hand to shaking. "I am Janet Long. Nice meeting you. And by the way, you have a very pretty name," she said with a wink. "Well, thank you, Jane," I said, smiling. "I can call you Jane. Right? Yeah. Sure. Most of my friends do," she said, smiling back. She seemed nice. "I've never seen you in this class before. Are you new?" "Yeah. I just got my schedule changed from biology to here." I didn't like the material as much as I thought I would, she said, shrugging. I was about to say something when the door flew open and Professor Reynolds walked in with her trademark smile in her face. "Morning class." She beamed. The class went well. After asking about each other's schedule, I bid Jane goodbye and walked out. Since the next class was a free period, I went to the library, hoping to get some work done on the assignment that was due next week. What would happen when you use your rarely used brain really hard? For the first time in a very long time. Yeah. You get hungry. I made my way to the cafeteria for lunch break. The worst thing about cafeterias, or at least about my college cafeteria, was the long queue. I didn't know if there was magic involved, but that damned line never seemed to move. You have to stand there with "I can swallow a horse in one go" hunger and the torturing food smell of the cafeteria. Latter was the worst part. For eternity till you could get food within your eyesight. I grabbed my tray after what seemed like forever and took a burger, a few French fries and soda, and went to our table. Alice was waiting for me while Jimmy had already started digging. Must have been raised by the wolves. I mentally patted myself on the back for the witty pun I could share with no one. Jimmy was a messy eater. There was a small streak of ketchup smeared on his cheek and more food that you could possibly stuff in a mouth. He didn't pay me any attention as I set down my tray and sat down. He looked up after receiving a pair of long, disgusting stares. He raised his brows at us. He was chewing and swallowing fast, trying to speak. "Why are you both staring at me like I have grown horns?" "I am hungry," he said with his most possible innocent face. Shrugging, Alice slapped his arm and said, "You dumbass. I am staring at you not because you have grown horns. As a matter of fact, even if you did, you would look nothing scarier than you look right now. It's just because I have started wondering when you would get satisfied with your hunger. You said you were hungry 30 minutes ago and you are still hungry. I fear whether the cafeteria can even provide us food when you are inside." she said, moving her tray away from him. Jimmy rolled his eyes. Woman. You see this muscle? You won't get that unless you eat like I do now. No wonder you look like a twig. He said and flexed his biceps. Yeah. I have seen better than that. Alice said, sticking out her tongue. Not better than mine. He said. Smirking. Oh. Is that so? You want to talk to John about that? That shut his mouth. I'll pass. He said and went to mauling his food. Werewolves have very high metabolism and a perfect physique. One look at those two and you could say that. Alice may look skinny, but she could trek for miles and not look like someone who might need CPR. I started eating my burger to tame my angry tummy but stopped. Irritated by the sound Jimmy was making. Alice placed her cup down with an extra force. Will you stop that? What are you doing? Trying to bite off your fingers. She snapped. Purely disgusted. It's ketchup. I don't want to waste it. He said and went back to lick the ketchup from his fingers. I know werewolves have got a great appetite. But I don't think he is a werewolf. He must be something more primitive than that. He eats for a village. For God's sake. I said, moving my chair away from him, taking my tray with me. And he just shrugged. I slurped down the last of my soda and threw the empty can into the dustbin, and we walked to our afternoon class. Luckily we three have the same class, but not so luckily it was physics. Noontime. Post-lunch. Physics class. A perfect triad for any student like me to doze off. I couldn't help it. But Ohm's law and potential difference sounded like a lullaby to me, even with that hoarse voice of Professor Benjamin. I was just about to undress Dylan O'Brien when a rapid pat on my back woke me. I rubbed my sleepy eyes and stifled a yawn, only to see a fuming physics professor by our desk and a fear-stricken Alice. I tried to wake you. She mouthed guiltily. After giving several long lectures about classroom etiquettes from Prof. Benjamin. Which was enough to keep me awake for more than a week. He resumed teaching. I looked over my shoulder when I heard a giggle. Jimmy the a-hole. The remaining class went boring with me blinking away the sleep tears that were formed due to numerous yawns. Credits to physics. After giving me a dead glare, Mr. Benjamin walked out. The best thing about walking from one class to another for the next subject was that you would feel awake with all that walking and manage to stay awake for at least 10 minutes into the next class. But luckily for me, my next class was English. The best thing about English class was you were allowed to do things you loved to do and were good at doing. English gave a God complex I never knew I had. Like creative writing, which I was obviously good at. Discussing literature, and in particular Jane Austen's. I loved her works. The class went in a blink and my college was finally over. I walked out of the campus with Alice and Jimmy. I bid them goodbyes and walked towards my apartment. Finally, I got through Monday classes and managed to stay alive. The weather was surprisingly warm and windy. I was about to turn around a corner when I ran into a woman. I looked up into her green eyes, and my breath got knocked out of me. Those emerald eyes reminded me of someone who was once very close to me. I followed her hand to a toddler. Smiling at me. Sorry. She apologized. It's okay. I wasn't watching where I was either. I said with a smile. The little girl smiled at me and wrapped her little hand around her mom's pinky finger and waved at me. I waved back. The ray of a particular memory which was haunting me day and night. A remembrance which left a never-fading scar. flashed in front of my eyes. Unshed tears filled my eyes. I remembered my last visit to the nearby ice cream parlor with my mom. I ran to my apartment fighting hard to keep the brimming tears within my eyes. I threw myself in my bed, not caring to change and let the warm tears wet my pillow, which have witnessed several of my silent sobs and sleepless nights. My memory rolled 13 years ago. To that fateful day. To the cursed year of my life. 13 years back, I waved Aunt Jenny and Uncle Ben goodbye as I stood, glaring at Tom, who was still laughing about the prank that he pulled on me. My parents were still seeing them off. When I ran inside and into my room, I brushed my teeth standing in front of the mirror, sporting a frown, in my Paw Patrol PJs, murmuring profanities known to my 6-year-old brain about Tom, who made me watch a horror movie convincing that it was indeed a comedy movie. Who knew how long it would take for me to fall asleep? After a great struggle and lots of twists and turns, I finally fell asleep. In the middle of my night, I felt a hand creep on my waist. My eyes flew open, but I kept still. No, Jesus. Please. I didn't want a horrible death, and I certainly didn't want to die young. I closed my eyes shut, wishing it to be a nightmare, and when I realized it was indeed a real hand, I jumped back, screaming. The light switched on, revealing a very shocked and concerned Mom, and my dad laughing to the point of tears in his eyes. "Honey, are you okay?" he asked, still laughing. I narrowed my eyes and made a mental note to make him pay back for scaring me. Later. My dad, William Bill Hunt. He was pretty handsome with trimmed blonde hair with very hard to find gray hairs here and there and sticking blue eyes which always had a sparkle in it when he looked at my mom, Lisa Hunt. She was a brunette and had the greenest of green eyes, according to my dad. And I was a perfect mixture of my parents. Brunette hair and blue eyes. They were high school sweethearts. They had me when they were both 18. Their parents didn't want me. Said they were too young to have a baby of their own, and forced them to terminate her pregnancy. But they wanted me. So they moved out and settled in Wood Springs. Got jobs and formed a little family that their parents tried to take away from them. My dad leaned forward with a smile on his face and kissed me. "Happy birthday, Cupcake," he whispered. What? It was my birthday. My 7th birthday. And I forgot it. My eyes widened in realization and I launched myself at my dad and made him stumble in his place. My mom kissed my forehead, which was placed on my dad's shoulder, and hugged me along with my father. I really can't believe I forgot my own birthday. I jumped, flashing my toothy grin. After releasing me from the hug, my dad said, "Okay, princess. What do you want? I promise I will get you anything you want, and you know how I keep my words." He pressed the tip of my nose with a finger, winking. He knew what I wanted. He was just putting up a charade to escape from my mom. And I knew how to play along. I pursed my lips and tapped my chin with my index finger, pretending to think. "Est. Peter's Peak," I said with all the innocence in the world, earning a known smirk from my dad and a frown from my mom. "Sweetie, that place is not safe, and it's raining now. The roads are slippery." "Honey," she said. "But you promised me that you will get me anything I wanted." I defended, pouting. That was my last weapon. "Leave it, Lisa. Today is her birthday. Don't upset her." He then turned towards me and said, "See here, Cupcake. Sleep tight tonight so you can stay awake throughout the ride tomorrow. Okay. It's thin." He kissed my cheek. I nodded, grinning. After wishing me again, and lots of hugs and kisses later, they both left my room. How could my dad expect me to sleep? I was going to my dreamland tomorrow. God knew how many more twists and turns it would take for me to sleep. Finally, I drifted into sleep. Exhaustion from all the excitement. I pinched myself thrice to confirm that I was standing in St. Peter's Peak. It was a small hill at the edge of Wood Springs. Trekkers and adventurers were the usual crowd there. It was a not famous tourist spot, and the locals took a great effort to keep it that way. It was personal for my dad. After my parents left Colorado, leaving behind their families and the whole ordeal, they used to come here a lot. He said it gave him peace and calmness and a feeling he never knew he needed. He said give him a new start. But Mom hated it. She hated heights. And because of that, even though I was born here, this was the first time I was visiting the peak. With Wood Springs' oceanic climate and cloudy weather, it gave a breathtaking view of its rich green forest. I stood there, transfixed, etching the beauty of Wood Springs and its dense forest. We took a lot of pictures and made memories for the whole day. We waited for the sunset and for it to paint the whole sky with shades of orange and violet. I've never had anything more beautiful than that. It was dark outside when we finally came back to our car. At Peter's Peak made this birthday a special one. The one I would remember forever. I was in the back seat, windows down and looking outside with wind in my hair. Not wanting to leave yet while my parents jammed to Bruce Springsteen in the front seats. And all of a sudden, before I could turn around, before I could see what was happening, it happened. Our car collided with a truck carrying wooden logs. My father lost his control over the car and it somersaulted twice or thrice. I never knew, but something worse happened. It all happened in a blink. There were screams. Broken glasses flying everywhere. Pitch black outside and all I saw was my mom screaming and reaching for me while crying my name before the darkness engulfed me. I blinked many times to adjust my eyes to the bright light. All I heard was a beep sound which became erratic suddenly and a shuffling footsteps. I tried to move but immediately regretted it, as sharp pains shot from different parts of my body. I was in a white room with the curtains, furniture, all in white. I was distracted from my pain by a blonde lady in white coat. "How are you, dear?" "It's Machno, Cade Remissity," she asked in a very soft voice. Her eyes held pity. "Where are my parents?" I whispered, ignoring her question and looking behind her, searching the room. "They were nowhere. They are outside. Take a rest, child. You can meet them later," she said and moved around the room, looking at a clipboard in her hand. "No. I want to meet them now." I was frantically shouting at her at this point. The machines around me started beeping rapidly. "Hey. It's okay. They are just outside this door. You are sick now. Honey. You need to rest now so you can meet them later. They won't go anywhere. Okay. And mina very tender." She tried to soothe me. "No. Please let me meet them. It'll be okay once I meet them," I pleaded. She sighed, but then called the nurse and told her something. Then, after a few minutes, the door was opened. But it was Aunt Jenny and Uncle Ben who walked in. Not my parents. Where are my parents? I yelled at the doc. Sweetie, they are not here. But they are in a better place. Aunt Jenny told me. Sniffing. Her eyes were red and puffy. Better place. What does that mean? They gave me no answer. But then. I didn't think I needed it. Ever since I woke up in the hospital bed, I was willing myself to not think about it. To ignore the bitter truth. But I couldn't help when the worst reality struck me. My parents were dead. No words could ever explain the pain I felt. A blinding pain. A pain of a child who has just lost her parents. Who was just now orphaned. My vision blurred. A lump has formed in my throat. It has made it hard to breathe and was choking me. And that was the last thing I heard and remembered before I fainted again. It's been an hour since I woke up again in that hospital bed. I sat there, hugging my knees while the adults around me decided my fate. There were no more tears left to cry. Just occasional hiccups and sobs. My throat felt dry and rough, but I was exhausted to ask for water. My eyes were tired and droopy, but I was afraid to close them because my parents' faces flashed whenever I did. The doc said that I could go home tomorrow. What would I do in a world that I couldn't share with my parents? I didn't want to live. But I had to. I wanted to live for my mom's sacrifice. I heard from the doc that I was pulled into my mom's arms while the car swerved. That hug saved my life. Saved me from shattered glass pieces. From rough roads and from dying. None of my parents' relatives wanted to take me in. They didn't want an extra burden from someone who they despised. But I didn't mind. Leaving for Colorado meant leaving Wood Springs. And that would mean moving further away from my parents. At least staying here would make me feel closer to them. At least I would get to live in the place my parents lived. So, I was sent to an orphanage. And there, I met Aiden. Aiden Smith. He was 2 years older than me with big gray orbs and black hair. That he was never able to tame. He was the angel who touched my life and turned it into a beautiful one. Again. I wondered how we both became friends. We both are the polar opposites. I was the prankster and he was the one who would glare at me and tell me to stop. With a small smile at the corner of his lips. I wouldn't shut up around him, and he would say 2 words. At the most. In an hour. He was a cute guy who could charm everyone in the room just by walking in. I never knew how he ended up here. But he was too mature for his age. He cared for me. Looked out for me. He taught me things, and promised me that he would always be in my life. But fate was cruel. It took away the people I loved and cared for. From me. Leaving me to grieve in silence. After giving me 7 years of everything. He suddenly left the orphanage. Not even a goodbye. I still remember that morning when I ran around the orphanage. Asking for him, and was told that he was adopted by a family in Australia. And after that I never saw him. After I completed my high school. I left the orphanage and moved in with Nora. A girl I met when she volunteered at the orphanage I was in. I found myself a job to pay my tuition and rent. Through all the chaos. That was my life. I found a normal routine. I found a family again. In Alice and Jimmy and in Nora. I had a family and I lost it, but the family didn't end just with blood. I woke up. Still dressed in my college clothes. Tired and drained. I reached into my pocket for my phone and checked the time. I squinted my eyes at the bright light in the dark room. It showed 8:00 p.m. I dozed off for 3 hours. I got up and walked to the dresser and flinched when I saw myself in the mirror. My eyes were puffy and sported raccoon eyes with all the ruined mascara around it and running down my cheeks. My hair looked like a bird's nest. I rushed into my bathroom and took a quick shower, slipping into my tee and PJs. I went down to grab some food from the kitchen. Nora was humming some melody and cooking there. "Hey Nora. When did you come home?" She turned around with a bowl in her hand. "Hey there. I came home around 5. Is everything okay? I came into your room. You were sleeping with your college clothes on. Did you cry? Is everything all right?" She put down the bowl and looked at me. Worried. "No. I mean yes. I am perfectly all right. I had a headache. That's it. I am fine now that I got some sleep." I lied. She sighed, shaking her head at me. Apparently she didn't buy it, but she didn't push. She went back to whatever she was doing before. "Wait. I can smell something good. Is that spaghetti you are cooking?" I asked, sniffing the air. "Dog." She laughed. "You smelt it right. Spaghetti and meatballs for dinner." She did a little dance with the spatula in her hand. "You are the best. I love you. I'll go set the table." I kissed her cheek and went out. After 2 long minutes she came with a steaming bowl of my kryptonite. After prayer, we started eating. "So Nora, how was your day today?" She dropped her fork down on the plate with a clink and looked at me, her eyes wide. "Oh God. How did I forget? Bella. There was this hot guy in my office today. He was there for signing some contract or something. I should have taken a picture of him. I know I shouldn't objectify males," she said with her hands held up in mock surrender. "But boy, was he delicious. And the navy blue tailored suit he was wearing wasn't helping the cause either. He was as close as you could see a Greek god in real life. He was so hot. My married boss was trying to flirt with him, and you know what a stuck-up bitch she is." She huffed, the dreamy look on her face gone at the mention of her boss. "You should have got his number." I nudged her with my elbow. "Yeah. Linda would have had my head if I did that, and besides he wasn't exactly my type," she said. "The monologue you just did. It didn't make it look like he wasn't your type." "Yeah. Well, I'm not blind," she said, going back into a dreamy trance, her hand absent-mindedly moving the food around her plate. "Nora. As a pretty Asian," I called her, stifling my laugh. She shook her head and picked up her fork, and looked at me as if she had just gotten out of a daze. "So what about you?" "Ugh. I didn't have as much luck as you today in that department. Prof Benji chewed me out. He spits a lots." I shuddered. If looks could kill, I would be 6 feet under the ground now. We had our daily girl chats and gossips as we finished our dinner. I bid Nora good night and went to my room. By the time I typed the last words of an assignment that was due next week, it was already past midnight. I switched the lights off, went to bed and drifted off into a dreamless sleep. It's been 4 days since the reality check. 4 days since I was reminded that I haven't gotten over the past. After my morning routines and shower, I slipped myself into a navy blue tank top and a black jean. I had my breakfast and walked to my college. The usual. You know. I saw Jimmy leaning against the car and was charming his way into a blonde girl's bedroom. It was the same old sight every day, but today something was missing. Alice. I made my way towards him. Seeing me, the girl left, slipping him his phone number, which he pocketed with a smug grin. Where is Alice, and when will you stop flirting with girls? I squinted my eyes against the morning sun and also Jimmy's shit-eating grin. First, she is off today. Second, I wasn't flirting. I was just talking, he said, grabbing his backpack from the back seat. Off today. Why? Is she okay? And discreet? I questioned him, growing concerned. He straightened up so fast from his bent position. He hit his head against the car roof. He looked at me with a surprised face, rubbing his head. You forget. Tomorrow is her birthday. She is busy making preparations. Thank God she is not here. Or else you would be begging me now to save your life. He told me with an accusing look. Well, I wasn't exactly looking forward to anything since Monday. Jimmy and I got separated and went to our respective classes. I had only 2 periods today. The rest were leisure periods and practical. I sat through linguistics and creative writing, and the rest of the day went with me running around the campus, submitting my assignments and returning books in the library. Evening. After my college sessions were over, I went to the parking lot to meet Jimmy to ask him about his plans on Alice's birthday. Alice was sitting in his car, on the driver's seat, with the door open, and was talking to Jimmy comically. Hey Alice. Missed you today, I said, coming to stand beside Jimmy, who was sporting a confused look. Hey. Bells. I was busy. You know, tomorrow they get nothing done without me. So I had to skip school today. Yeah. Yeah. I know, I said, eyeing Jimmy and daring him to open his mouth. Okay. Actually, I was waiting for you. I have a surprise for you. Guess what? She smirked. Humans were not allowed in their pack house or even in their territory. Because of that, I've never attended one of their birthday parties. But for every birthday, we would all hang around together. Just the 3 of us, and sometimes Nora. At our place, we would rent a movie, bake each other's cake, take millions of pictures, or just get wasted and sleep throughout the day, and they would go back to their pack house, to their parties in the evening. That's how it has always been for us. So when she said she had a surprise for me, I was confused. Surprise for me? Well, are there any parties for just us this year? No, honey. It's better than that. You are also invited to the party this year. Elfe gave her mission. She finished in a single breath and looked at us excited, biting her lip. What? At? Jimmy asked her, and I was pretty sure he heard her the first time. I stood there and was pretty sure I made a dent in my college parking lot floor when my jaw dropped. I opened and closed my mouth, not sure if she was joking or not. She didn't have to be dramatic to get this reaction out of us. Just the message would have just sent us gasping for air. And from the look on Jimmy's face, I was pretty damn sure that this was the first time he was hearing about this invitation too. How can she expect me to want into a party house full of werewolves and be fine with it? I would be the only human. No. Alice. Are you kidding? You are kidding. Right. No. Bella. I am serious. I've been threatening and pleading with our alpha for months to let you come, and he is not an easy guy to convince. He thinks it would not be safe if you came. Well, he is not wrong. Is he? And it is Najer, it's sane. I asked her, rolling my eyes. We were speaking about the alpha who almost sent a search party after my ass when he knew that I knew about them. How she convinced him to go with her plan. Only God knew. She pouted. Wow. Jimmy whispered after a radio silence of 5 minutes. Which says something when it comes to him. He looked at Alice and slowly shook his head. I don't know how you convinced Alpha. But I have mad respect for you, woman. He said. From the looks of it. He was pretty shook from his Alpha's decision, and that was enough to put a smile on Alice's face. Please. Bella. Come. You'll be safe with us. I'll be there. John and Jimmy will be there. Please. She was flexing her puppy dog eyes at me. If it worked on his Alpha. Who was I? A puny human to resist it. I sighed. Fine. I'll come. She laughed and hugged me. Now that her plan has worked. And walked back to her car. Jimmy will pick you up. Tomorrow evening. 5 o'clock. All right. And away, ha. I nodded and waved her by as she drove away. Jimmy left shortly after her. Still barely speaking a word. This was going to be my first visit to her pack house. I didn't know what was waiting for me there. Not yet. I went to my apartment and made myself some sandwiches. I was a terrible cook, but Nora taught me how to make the most basic things, so I wouldn't die from Doritos poisoning. Her words, not mine. I heard the main door and close, and Nora walked in. She threw her purse on the coffee table and plopped down on the sofa, kicking off her shoes. Clearly exhausted. Hey, Nora. Made some sandwiches. Want some? In a lush. I yelled from behind the kitchen counter. No thanks. I don't want to die young. She quipped back. Not lifting her head. Rude. I mumbled with a mouth full of food and joined her on the sofa. I have to do some shopping. I said. She lifted her head up so fast I wondered how she didn't get a whiplash. Shopping. Did you just say shopping, or am I hallucinating? In fact. I rolled my eyes at her. I would rather sit in my room. In comfort. And go through tons of dresses online than walk around a mall. Dragging my feet up to every shop and boutiques and feel like death at the end of the day. Drama queen. I rolled my eyes at her. Tomorrow is Alice's birthday. She invited me. So. I want to buy me a decent dress and also a gift for her or something. I'm running out of underwear too. That's new. You guys never had birthday parties. She had her house all to herself this weekend. So. She took the chance. I guess. I smiled. Suddenly interested in my sandwich. That a girl. She smiled and got up. Okay. Get ready soon. She grabbed her purse and walked away. What? Now? Didn't you just come in? Aren't you tired? And? Not for shopping. No. She yelled and slammed her door shut. Guess I have to get ready too. I went to my room and took some money I was saving up and changed into a jean and a pullover. And came down and waited. She came in shortly and we both drove to the nearby mall. After the nightmare that was parking. We went in. Alice loved jewelries. She once used to collect rings with a passion. So we went into a jewelry shop. I wasn't very picky. So within a few minutes we entered. I chose a pendant that showed the letter A with a few stones embedded in its left stem and 2 wings on either side. It was cute. Later, we both went into a clothing store. I bought myself some underwear while Nora bought something for herself and threatened to scream banshee when I tried to look at what it was. Okay. And after that, it was Nora's time to sign. She took the reins of the shopping wagon and dragged me one shop to another, in search of that dress. At this point, I probably had tried more dresses than I could actually wear in a year. I was looking for a chair to rest my legs around the boutique when she came back with a black dress in her hands. Nora, what are you doing? It looks expensive. I don't have the money. Oh, it's affordable. I checked it, she said, stuffing the dress in my hands. Now go try it. She pushed towards the changing room. I closed the curtains and removed my pullover. My arms tired from doing the same action many times. But I took back all the eye rolls and whines. Once I saw myself in that dress. It was a flare black sleeveless dress with lace yoke that reached just above my knees. I didn't expect it to fit perfectly. You done? It's thing. Nora yelled from the other side of the curtain. I peeked out and gestured to her to come in. Her mouth fell open as she saw me, which morphed into a smile once she completed her look over. How is it? Anna loving answered, come. I did a little twirl for her and laughed, waiting for her answer. You look stunning, she said, admiring the dress. You should totally get this, she said, coming to stand behind me, looking at me in the trial room mirror. From her reaction, I knew that she liked it. She went out to wait while I changed back into my clothes, and carefully folded the dress and walked out. Now this. She pushed a pair of black stilettos at my face. No way I'm wearing that. I can't even walk in that. But we all knew who won the argument. After convincing me that I would have enough time to practice walk in that shoe before the party, we paid the bill for both and left. After a few more hours of shopping, my feet felt like they had been run on. Nora. It's enough. I am tired. No. We have only a bit more, she trailed off as I zoned out. Please. I need food. I am starving. She stopped and looked at me, finally considering that eating was a primary need to survive. Besides shopping, we found a table in the food court and ordered our dinner. Food never tasted that good before. After a few, this is the last one shops, we finally headed home. I went up to my room and placed the dress in the cupboard. Tired to point I could barely stand. I completed the bedtime rituals as fast as I could and fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. I woke up with a smile on my face. One of the best things about weekends was you didn't have to wake up with the irritating sound of that fucking alarm in your ear. What a pleasant way to wake up. No rush to take shower. No rush to have breakfast. No rush to go to college. I wished every day to be weekend days. I brushed my teeth and threw my hair up in a messy bun and went down. Nora was running around the home getting ready for her work. Her work demanded her presence almost all days of the week. And her boss was not exactly a friendly face to look at. She stayed in her job only because it was her dream job and the paycheck was really good. I got it. You go. I snatched the plates she was washing from her, and pushed her out of the kitchen. She packed, corrected, buried all her daily things in her handbag and walked to me. After a mini lecture about the safety of me and how not to burn the home down, she bid me goodbye. I had the house all to myself today. I went to my room and took a quick shower and slipped into my boyfriend t-shirt and a pair of comfortable shorts. I took the breakfast to the living room and settled comfortably on the sofa, remote in one hand and food in the other. After skipping through so many channels, I settled for Friends reruns. It was about 1 p.m. when it suddenly dawned on me. I smirked and did an evil laugh as I rushed into Nora's room and searched her closet for the secret clothing she bought yesterday. An anonymous brown cover. I opened it and it took me 2 whole minutes to shut my wide open mouth to realize that there were 2 sets of black and red lingerie. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. Why would she buy this? Did she have a boyfriend? Those lingerie were specifically designed to look seductive and sexy. Well, good for her. Those little pieces of clothing looked like it would do its job pretty good. I sniggered and left the bag as it was before and came down. I took the black stilettos we bought yesterday with me downstairs and walked in it around the living room until my legs started aching. Somewhere between the episodes of God knew which season, I fell asleep on the sofa. I woke up to Nora staring down at me with hands on her hips. I blinked at her and sat up, craning my neck to check the time. You didn't move from this place since morning, did you? When? Because? She asked as she walked around, clearing the coffee table that was now littered with wrappers and soda cans. Get up. It's 5. You have only an hour to get ready. 1 hour is more than n. Without waiting for my reply, she dragged me to my room and ordered me to take a shower. Again. Then I put on the black dress I bought yesterday. Now makeup and hair, she said with a sadistic smile on her face. Keep it light, please, I pleaded as she pushed me onto a chair. After about 30 minutes of torture, she finished and took a step back to admire her work. Open your eyes. She sounded excited. Wow. I gasped as I looked at the blue-eyed girl staring back at me. My brunette hair was tied in a high ponytail and my eyes were supporting a smoky look. She kept it natural. I looked up at her smiling. Nice job. I opened the drawer in my dressing table and found a small blue velvet box which I haven't touched in many years. I opened it, revealing a solitaire diamond pendant and a thin platinum chain. My mom's. I clasped it around my neck. I met Nora's eyes in the mirror and she smiled at me. Soft knocks on the main door came from downstairs. He is here, she said and left to get the door. I took one last look at the mirror and went downstairs. Surprisingly, and I hate to admit it, but it felt good to walk in high heels. Jimmy was leaning against the door frame and was talking to Nora, both laughing about something, and looked up at me at the sound of my heels against the hardwood stairs. Wow, he mouthed and watched me climb down the stairs. You look beautiful. I smiled at him. You don't look so bad yourself, I quipped back. He looked dashing in a navy blue button-down and beige dress pants, completing the look with a white canvas. I know it's all you, Nora. Good job. He winked at her and moved aside and gestured for me to go first. I rolled my eyes at him and got in the car before he could flex some more of his gentleman skills. He shook his head and got in. We both waved Nora goodbye and drove away. It was a sleek white Audi. The upholstery looked expensive and was warm against my thighs as I got comfy in his car. This was the first time he was bringing this car. I opened his dashboard and saw a small photo of a girl, probably a year older than me now, smiling at the camera. "Who is this Jimmy?" Looked at the picture in my hand and his hold on the steering wheel tightened. "That's my sister Sarah. Sarah Merrick," he said, glaring straight ahead. I felt bad. I knew his sister died when he was a small boy. But I never saw her pictures, and he never talked about her. He would flinch every time at the mention of his family, and I, for one, knew it was a sore subject for him, and I never pushed. He was silent when I stole a glance at him. I couldn't help but smile at the photo. Looked so young. Her eyes so full of life. Her smile gave colors to that old Polaroid. She was beautiful. I whispered, unsure of whether he heard me or not. When I looked up at him, he had a thoughtful smile on his face. He very rarely showed this side of him. Everybody knew him as the famous athletic guy who slept around and partied hard, but only a few knew about the real Jimmy. The vulnerable one who knew so many deaths at a very young age. Among the three of us, Jimmy was the mother hen. He was the type of guy you would trust your drinks with. The type of guy who would make fun of your crying face while lending a shoulder to cry on. She was in love. So much in love. But to think that that was what killed her. That she died in the arms of her mate. It just makes it more painful that it already is. He said, his voice breaking. I was at a loss for words. Mates were supposed to love each other. Werewolves mate for life. Losing one's mate usually resulted in agony and lifelong pain to the surviving one. I looked at him, but he avoided me and concentrated on the road. He got what he deserved for killing his mate. He went berserk. Started killing his own people until they had chained and locked him down. He said, his grip on the wheel turning his knuckles white. I'm sorry. I whispered and squeezed his hand. Him a reassuring smile. He smiled back and mumbled a, thank you. I knew what it was like to lose people close to us. Alice and Jimmy have a fair share of loss in their life. And I thought that was the thing that brought us together in first place. 3 little kids. Scarred for life. And been through things their other classmates could never think of. We sat in silence for the rest of the ride as he drove deep into the woods. It was about a 45 minutes drive when we arrived at the gates of a huge mansion. It had a fountain at the front. For crying out loud. He parked his car and ran to my side and opened the door for me. He held out his hands, which I gladly took. Lady. He did a gracious bow. His boyish grin back on his face. My lord. I did a somewhat gracious curtsy and laughed at each other's antics. He offered his arm, which I gladly took, and together we crossed the main door and entered a very big hall. For an old-fashioned mansion from outside, it had a very modern interior. Tall ceilings and glittering crystal chandelier took the word grandiose to another level. And there were many people. Werewolves in their human form. In stunning evening attires. Filling the huge in the hall. Sensing the presence of a human. Many heads turned towards me. Making me painfully aware of everything. I slid close to Jimmy and sensing that. His grip on my hand tightened reassuringly. Is everyone here werewolves? I whispered in his ears. Not wanting to draw even more attention than I already have. No. He said and craned his head. Searching for someone in the crowd. Of course. Not including me. Still, no. Finding that someone he was looking for. He gently guided me through the people, causing throwing winks and nods. Here and there. I gave him a care to explain look. Can you see a dark-haired, pale-skinned girl by the pillar? He pointed at a petite girl in a pixie haircut talking to someone a few feet away from us. I nodded my head. She is a vampire. I looked back at him in pure shock. Weren't they supposed to be enemies? When I looked back at the girl, she was already glaring in our direction and started walking towards us. She came to a stop in front of us and was glaring at Jimmy while I was literally holding my breath. You are Bella, right? She asked me, smiling. I nodded and gave her a tight smile. Her reaction changed to a serious one. Did she smell me? He told you I'm a vampire, didn't he? Askin'. She asked, glaring at Jimmy. I looked at both of them, gauging their reaction. I'm not. She turned towards me and gave me a warm smile. I'm just pale. She went on her tiptoes and dragged him by his ears to her height. And Jimmy here thinks that's funny and walks around telling people that I am a vampire. My face reddened in embarrassment. Of course she was not a vampire. She was partying with a room full of werewolves. For God's sake. I'm Stacy and nice to meet you, Bella. I gave a sheepish grin and shook hands with her. Nice to meet you too, and I'm sorry about that. She shook her head and said all right and went back to the group she was previously talking to. I turned around to Jimmy, who was rubbing his ears, and glared at him until he looked up. A slow smile formed on his lips, which then grew into a grin. Come on. It was funny, he said and jumped back when I smacked his arm with my purse. No. It wasn't. I took a step forward to smack him again when I heard Alice over the crowd's noise. She was moving through the crowd, elbowing people out of her way, dragging a fine-looking tall guy behind her, towards us. You came. She crushed me with her trademark hug and stepped back, but kept me at arm length and said, "And girl, you look smoking hot," she said, checking me out. But you are the one stealing the show here. Where did you get that dress? Damn. I took a step back to give her a once-over. It was a floor-length emerald gown that did an amazing job in making her eyes pop. Oh. John bought it. With that she remembered something and turned towards the tall guy she had left hallway to hug me and dragged him by his arms towards us. Bella. John. John. Bella. Her mate. John Connor. He stood tall, a few inches over Jimmy. Incredibly well-built and high cheekbones about which Alice should write a thesis. His longish blonde hair was slicked back, and he looked like he's just been out of a fashion show in his black suit. Finally, we both said at the same time as we shook hands. He laughed and gathered Alice into his arms and said, "She talks about you all the time. It's good to finally put a face to the name." Looking down at her, she fit perfectly in his arms and their height difference was literal goals. Is that you complaining? Hey. She narrowed her eyes and raised her brow at him. He held his hands in surrender, clearly playing along. Come with me. She pulled me with her to a group of people at the center of the hall and introduced me to them. I didn't remember half of the people's names I've met. Too much socializing for a single day. And where is he? She mumbled to herself. Alice was searching for someone in the crowd, when I felt someone come up from behind me. I hope you are looking for me. I looked to my left and took a step back when I realized how close he was standing to me. There you are. Bella. This is my cousin. Danny. Daniel Welkins. Pax Delta. He gave me a smirk. What I was pretty sure he thought was charming, and said, "And I'm single." I internally cringed at his blatant flirting. Alice rolled her eyes at him. "Put that in a t-shirt. It'll be easier that way." I gave him a smug grin. He was caught off guard but tried to play it off by feigning hurt. "Until next time, gorgeous." He winked at me and walked away, leaving behind a chuckling Alice. What the hell was that? John came up behind her and said that it was time for the cake. "Where's Alpha?" "Coat?" she asked him, slightly worried. I tried to mind-link him, but he wouldn't respond. "I think he'll sit this one out." She huffed and murmured something under her breath about her Alpha being an adamant jerk. We moved to the center of that hall. Jimmy joined us, already a drink in his hand. The party started earlier for some people. I felt a hand in the small of my back, and looked around to see Daniel. I rolled my eyes. Someone just didn't know when to quit. I was about to tell him off when a thunderous voice shook the foundation of the building. "Mine." The voice growled, among the many gasps and murmurs. I barely heard the word Alpha. I stood there frozen, rooted to my spot. When it finally dawned on me, Femila's me. Ryan's point of view, I got out of that building as soon as I could, before people could start piling in. Parties. I hated parties. Best way to distract everyone in a single place. Distract them with drinks and sneak up behind them. I should have known Alice would pull something like this when I said yes to having a party. But bringing a human into the territory, it could put both her and the pack in danger. But you could only refuse the pack beta female's request for so long. If anything goes wrong, at least I would have all the chances in the world to say, "I told you so" to her. I walked out through the backyard, acknowledging people's greetings with a polite nod, into the woods. It has been a long time since I have gone out for a run. It was always this meeting, that project. And it has been a very long time since I have let my wolf out. I took the familiar path alongside the road and started with a slow jog. The cold air felt good against my warm skin. I slowly gained momentum with each push. I broke into a run. I could see cars zooming past me, past the tree lines, on the road, probably to the party. As Pack House was the only inhabitation this deep in the wood, I changed my path and ran deep into the woods. I ran and ran until I was pure adrenaline. I could feel my calves burning, blood coursing through my tiring limbs, my breath forming puffs of clouds in air. My feet slapped against the grassy forest floor, sending me jetting past the trees that blurred in my speed. A mystical, immense sense of euphoria hit me like a freight train, knocking the breath out of me as I came to an abrupt halt. My wolf clawed at the back of my mind, bugging me let him out. I tried to shut him out, but it only made it difficult for me to breathe. A thin layer of sweat coated my forehead as I stripped in the privacy of the moonless night and tied my shorts into a bundle. A familiar sensation of pain coursed through my body as my bones snapped in different directions, elongating in various lengths, piercing my skin, which would later heal without a scar. My large paws sunk into the wet soil underneath and gripped it as the gray claw came out, cutting open the skin. He shook his black fur which blended into the night. He stood tall at his full height, howling at the dark woods. He was restless. I felt him pushing me to the back of his mind, refusing me the control. As he took my bundled up clothes in his mouth and bolted into the night for a familiar path. He missed every fallen log, low-lying branches and holes on the ground as he ran, not caring about anything. I've never seen him this out of control since our first shift. He pounced, claws piercing the ground underneath, the cool air weaving through his thick fur. He ran, and I let him. I saw the pack house past the tree lines, glowing against the dark night. He was stunned to a stop when it hit us. The most enchanting smell. I knew right away what it was. Who it was. The realization hit me like a bucket of ice water on the coldest winter night. He took a step forward, past the tree lines when I willed him to stop. I couldn't go in like this. Not when I was sure that my wolf would tell me to kiss his furry ass and go out of control. Once he got that certain someone in his sight. His mate. My mate. He walked back into the woods and shifted, letting out a whine, now and then. And I could sympathize with him. It was exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. I changed into my shorts and walked out. No one was outside except a few pack warriors, doing their security duties. They gave me a polite nod and opened the door for me. My senses were highly alert and muffled at the same time. Every breath of that mind-numbing scent felt like a silver knife and the saving breath of a drowning man in my throat at the same time. The crowd parted ways when they saw me walk in, watching me and following me with curious eyes as I walked in the direction my feet took me. I stopped dead on my tracks. I didn't need someone to point me at her. I could find her in a crowd of million people even though I've never seen her. She stood there, with her back towards me, her dark hair tumbling down her shoulders and her back. The last string of my restraints snapped when I saw him. Daniel. Standing too close to her, snaking his hand on her back. She went rigid. That was my last fucking straw. Mine. I growled, shaking. Numerous heads turned towards me and people scurried off further away from me. Taking your fucking hands off her, Daniel. I took a threatening step forward. He removed his hand like he was electrocuted and stepped back. And then she turned around. Nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for it. Call it cliché. I don't care. Everything faded into the periphery and she stood in the center of my vision. Everything moved in a painstakingly slow pace, and I loved every single second of it. In that biting cold of the night, she smelled like summer. She smelled like vanilla and sandalwood. If I was barely breathing before, it felt like a blow to the chest when she caught my eyes. It wasn't more than a minute since I saw her, but she was already, hands down, the most beautiful woman I've set my eyes on. She looked angelic. Dark hair framing her heart-shaped face. Her brows were furrowed, little lines forming on her forehead, and I could see the damn freckles on her nose. Bless my werewolf genes. Her pink lips were parted, probably in surprise, and her eyes. Her electric blue eyes were wandering over my naked torso. I smirked. She was checking me out. Bella's point of view, blue eyes met blue ones and my breath got knocked out of my body. Amongst the sea of people in dashing suits and glittering evening gowns. He was there. Just in his running shorts. But it was the latter party who caught my eyes and took my breath away. He stood there, like he owned this place. Which he probably did. In a sweaty mess with just a black running shorts covering his lower half. Hard slabs of muscles in his abdomen were carved into a perfect six-pack. He had tattooed a dragon on his veiny right arm that went all the way to his right pectoral. Damn. I knew he wasn't a human at first sight because that physique would be a sin in the human world. God took his time with this one. With a straight nose, strong chin and a 5 o'clock shadow over it. He looked effortlessly good. But the one thing that stood out, caught my eyes that were roaming shamelessly all over his body was his ocean blue eyes. They were so blue. So deep that I could spend my forever looking at them unveiling its mysteries. A faint healed scar on his left eyebrow added extra allure to his appeal. His curly black hair was in a wet mess atop his head. And yet somehow he managed to look like a runway model. And those perfect supple lips which I shook my head to throw those thoughts out which put an arrogant smirk on his face. With a few long strides, he filled the distance between us. His warm breath almost fanning my forehead. He was towering over me. Very well over 6'2". Give or take. That I had to take a step back to meet his eyes. I was so caught up in the moment that I barely noticed him leaning forward. His blue eyes fixed on my lips. What the fuck? I pushed him back by his chest with my small hands, making him stumble, and I too fell a few steps back as a recoil. His hooded eyes were now wide, full of anger. I knew I did something wrong to provoke him, but what was he thinking? Trying to kiss a girl he just met a few seconds ago. That was a total a-hole move. It all happened in seconds. His jaw ticked and he took an intimidating step towards me when Alice jumped between us. God bless you, Alice. Move, he said. Barely above a whisper. But it held so much anger this time directed towards her. Without moving his intense gaze from me. Alpha. She is a human. That did the job. He removed his eyes from me and looked at her. He was tense. I could see that from the strained cords in his neck and clenched fist. I think we should call Madame May, she whispered, bowing down and not looking him in the eyes, trying to de-escalate the situation. He nodded at her and took a step back. Everyone. Party's over. Dismiss. He yelled at no one in particular. Everyone except a few left the place without a word. Without a sound. John. Call Madame May right now. He barked out his orders and without another look in my way. We went upstairs, leaving behind a quiet crowd. It was silent. The hall that was loud with a party at a full swing just a few minutes ago was dead silent. Nobody looked anyone in the eye. What the hell was that? Inna, I whispered, turning heads in my direction. Alice sighed. Bella. I am sorry, she pleaded, her face full of worry. He is our alpha, Ryan, and he thinks you are his mate, she said. What? To Stan. I scoffed. That's not possible. Is that even possible? I mean, I'm a human. I looked at everyone for help and from the looks of it, they were equally as confused as me. That's why we are calling the elder. She squeezed my hand and gave me a smile and didn't reach her eyes like it always did. Ryan's point of view, I slammed the door shut as hard as I could. Of course. She was a human. She didn't feel the pull. She didn't feel my scent like I did hers. She never went through thousands of emotions that I went through in that 1 second. I slammed my fist on the table and watched, deriving a little satisfaction. As the table lamp crashed onto the floor, I sighed and looked up, catching my eyes in the mirror. I felt a torrent of emotions. I was angry that she didn't get to feel anything of this bond between us. I was annoyed at myself that I scared her with my antics downstairs. Sad that I had to be this way, but mostly I was scared. I was scared for her. Her being mated to a werewolf. To an alpha at that. Just painted a very big and bright target on her back. Anyone could come after her. I shook my head and willed myself to not open that door. I threw those thoughts out of my head and straightened. I didn't have a single grasp about what was happening, and what was about to happen. But in the middle of the chaos, that was this fucked up situation, I knew one thing. Clear as sky. It was real. What I felt was real. The pull was real. I took a quick shower and changed into a clean shirt and jeans. I couldn't help but to think about what was most likely to happen. She would reject me. And had I to accept that, I had to face the music one way or another. I took a deep breath, closed the door behind me and went down. Bella's point of view, John came back with a worried smile on his face. Mr. Alpha came down with a black button-down shirt and a blue faded jean. His hair damp. Alpha. She is here. Bring her to my study, he said and walked away, leading the way. Alice kept her one hand on my shoulder and the other in my back, rubbing circles, trying to soothe me. Behind two large wooden doors was the room, not bigger than the party hall. There were two brown sofas and a same-colored love seat with a glass coffee table in the middle. A lady in her 80s stood inside. Her long, gray hair was tied in a neat bun. Good evening, Alpha. She nodded politely. Evening, Madam May. I have called you here. I know. Alpha. Her eyes were looking at me with surprised eyebrows. I didn't know who she was. But I knew one thing. She was powerful enough to cut the Alpha off. You are a blessed one, Alpha. Blessed by the goddess herself. Both of your names will be passed down for generations. I wish you both a very happy forever. Wait. What? And ready for? I scoffed. This is ridiculous. How can you expect a human to lead a happy forever with a werewolf? I yelled, turning every head in that hall in my direction. I was the patient one in the trio. Something that became of me when I grew up in the orphanage. But even I had limits. And right now, it was running thin. Pretending I wasn't standing right there and discussing my life without involving me was where I drew the line. I'm done here. Okay. Alice. I'm leaving. Bye, Jimmy. I stood up, grabbed my purse and walked to the door without sparing them another glance. Your rejection would kill him. Child. I didn't know why. But that stopped me in my tracks. You have lost people before. Child. I could see it in your eyes. I just want you to know how important you are to him. To this pack. This doesn't work like it works in the human world. When a werewolf rejects her mate, it will make the other weak and suffer. But, in case of a human rejection, it will kill the other, in the worst way possible. If it is an alpha at the receiving end, it will be the downfall of his pack too. You are precious. Child. Even your lingering scent in the air is enough. Think of it. Now. Slowly. I turned around. Too much was happening around me, and I couldn't wrap my head around any of it. Why me? I asked her. My voice barely above a whisper. Do you believe in fate? It's way, 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 it's way. I scoffed. I had too much history with fate to not believe in it. She smiled at me and I had a feeling that she understood the reason behind my lack of answer. I don't have any clue why you were chosen. But what I know, for a fact, is how rare this is. She continued. The first werewolf was a human. An angered Zeus turned him and his sons into werewolves and cursed them to wander as beasts and suffer under every full moon. Our ancestors prayed to the moon goddess for a boon for them to live as both humans and wolves in harmony, and she granted it. There were lores and legends of human mates blessed by the moon goddess to keep the harmony, but I never thought I would live to see one. I plopped down on a nearby chair and rested my face on my palm, balancing my elbows on my knees. This wasn't how I thought the day would be. Is there any other way? Jimmy's voice resonated in the quiet hall. I looked up at him. He was silent throughout the whole ordeal. You can't say no to a goddess's blessing, James, she said. Her voice painted with worry. I sighed. I didn't want anyone to die because of my rejection. In their world, rejection like that could be brutal. And if the bond they talk about was actually very strong, think about trying to rip it apart. One scar that could last a lifetime was enough. I stood up. I agree. I felt curious eyes on me except the alphas, who still stood rigid, facing the fireplace. You said my scent is enough for him to live. I looked at Madame May. So I can move here. I agree to stay here. I don't want anybody to suffer because of me. Not again. I still have no idea about what's going on. But I'm willing to help. Bella. Alice stepped towards me, tears in her eyes. I don't want you to get hurt. She looked at the elder and pleaded. Is there any way I understand. Alice. After our alpha has marked her, she will become a werewolf, but she won't shift. She will possess a few werewolf features like heightened senses, fast mobility. But they need to mate for her to shift and to get an inner wolf. I guess she will be a white wolf matching Alpha's black one. Whoa. Whoa. Wait. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm not going to mate anyone, I said, air quoting. I'll stay here as a human. Everything after my stay here will be on my terms. I get to make the decision. Deal. Etienne. I asked no one in particular. I had to draw the line somewhere. Deal, he said, finally turning around to look at me. I give you my word. I'll respect whatever decision you make and it'll be on your terms. His eyes held so many emotions, but the look of respect on his eyes left me speechless. He walked towards me, his stance steady and confident. He stood in front of me, a few decent inches away. Thank you, he whispered. Maybe just for us to hear, and gave me a tight smile. James and Daniel will go with you and help you pack. He looked at them. Probably mind-linking orders. No. His eyes snapped at me in question. No. I cannot just leave my friend just because I have a new place to stay. She gave me everything for the past 2 years. I need at least a week or 2 to talk to her. I need some time, I said. Nora was important to me. She was sweet enough to take me in when I moved out of the orphanage, and since then provided me with almost everything. I owe her an explanation and time. He was giving me his intense gaze again. Okay. James and Daniel will drop you in your home and he pointed towards Daniel. Almost glaring. Stay away from her. He bowed his head and muttered Alpha. He left the room with Madame May discussing quietly. Probably about me. Well. Bella. Alice walked towards me looking worried. I'm sorry again. I'm smiling now. I know. I'm sorry. But I can't help it. We have Luna now. She smiled at me apologetically, which I sadly returned. I couldn't take out my emotions on her. I could see she was torn between being genuinely happy for her Alpha and being worried for me. I bid her and John goodbye and walked out. Dan and Jimmy stood by the car waiting for me. Jimmy was silent and wouldn't look at me, and Dan flinched a little when I reached for the door. I mentally rolled my eyes but was not in a mood to go around pulling his leg. I slipped into the back seat. I was exhausted. It was damn hard to wrap my mind around the fact that my life has changed completely in an evening. Before 6 p.m. I was a normal girl, waiting to enjoy a weekend party, and now I was mated to a werewolf and to be Luna of a pack. I sighed. I seemed to be doing that a lot. I got out of the car as soon as it hit the crib and rapped at the front door. Nora was ready for bed and was in her night clothes when she opened the door. Hey Bella. Jimmy. And who is this new sexy specimen? Nora eyed Daniel as she leaned against the doorframe. Nora. I chided. It was too late, and I was so damn tired to stand here and watch her flirt. Hey. I was just asking who he is. She defended. Daniel. Alice's cousin and Daniel. This is Nora. My roommate. I introduced them in a monotonous voice. You guys want to come in? She moved aside and opened the door wide. It's all right. Nora. We got to go. See you both later. Night. Jimmy gave us a weak nod and walked away. Something was up. But my brain was too fuzzy to think about it. I went in, followed by a very excited Nora. I threw my coat and purse on the couch, and wiggled my toes once they were out of the heels. I knew she was waiting for me to talk, but I purposefully ignored her. Well. How was the party? And what's the deal with sexy Danny? She winked. Oh, please. We are not even friends. I said, sipping on my glass of water. And am tired. Let's talk tomorrow, please. My eyes were drooping by that time, and I stifled a yawn with the back of my hand. Okay. Tomorrow is fine. Let's talk tomorrow. Go to sleep. Good night, but don't you think you can escape from me? She put my coat back on the hook and went into her room. Wishing her good night, I headed upstairs to my room. I was too drained to switch on the light and change. I blindly stripped and changed into an oversized t-shirt and hit the bed. The next morning started with me falling off my bed, rubbing my throbbing butt. I walked to the bathroom, and was down for breakfast in record time. Morning. Breakfast? She asked me when I walked into the kitchen. pushing a plate of toast and scrambled eggs towards me. I was still waking up, and I needed a cup of coffee, and some time before I could properly socialize. Downing the mandatory coffee, I dragged the plate towards me. I was about to grab the toast when she pulled back the plate to her. "Hey," I whined. "Give it back." "No. More excuses. Tell me what happened yesterday at the party." "Well, that was rude. Give me my toast." I reached for the plate, but she moved back with a shrug. "Ugh." Alice was in her green gown, and she cut the cake. We all ate it. It was one hell of a party. I threw my hands up in frustration when she moved further away, taking the plate with her. Very funny. Starve. Don't be a brat. I was getting riled up. Don't act smart. She shot back, shrugging. I held my hands in surrender. It was good, but nothing happened like what you are expecting. She was playing this role of matchmaker for me ever since I turned 18. She pushed me to go on dates. She even got the number of a guy at Target for me. She was hoping I would meet someone at Alice's party. What was this? The 19th century. And she didn't need to know about how all the hell broke loose at the party. She huffed, giving up. Fine. She gave me my plate back. What do you want to do today? Linda Lini has me under a tight schedule throughout the week. Today's the only day I've got. I just want to stay home. Some movies maybe. If I was going to have limited time with her in this house, I was going to make it count. Okay. I get to pick the movies. I shrugged. And so we ended up watching every film Chris Evans has ever made that we could get our hands on. I dozed off somewhere between third and the fourth movie, and I woke up rubbing my eyes when it was dark outside. Nora. What's the time now? Turn your head back and see for yourself. She shouted from the kitchen. We cooked dinner together. Well, she did the most job while I goofed around, pretending to be a cook show host interviewing her. It was dinner, and then Monopoly, and by the time we were finished, it was an hour past midnight, and I had dragged her out of my bedroom and reminded her that we both had places to be the next day. The week went by in a blur, and I made the most of it. With her. I had a feeling that she knew something was up. She would catch me watching her move around the kitchen or zone out in the middle of a conversation. She would go silent, waiting for me to speak up. I would ignore her, and she wouldn't push me. I wanted to tell her soon so that she would have some time to process it, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her. To lie to her. I had to lie to her. Telling her the truth would mean putting her in danger. It was a week since that night, and I've mustered up enough courage and a somewhat decent story to tell her at dinner. Nora. I have something to tell you, I said, not looking up, moving the food around my plate. Finally. What is it? I swallowed. It was harder than I thought it would be. Out with it. Woman. I'm going to move out. Not a good opening line. Her face fell, and I wanted to slap myself. Why? Foreign. I couldn't look her in the face, and her voice only pained me more. I bit my lip and selected my next words carefully. I have a boyfriend. We met 6 months ago in a cafe. A mutual friend of Alice. We are in love, and he wanted me to move in with him. I tried to explain it to him, but he is so stubborn. My lips started quivering and a warm tear rolled down my cheek. She reached for me and hugged me tight, and that was my last straw. I broke down on her shoulder, shaking from all the things I wanted to say to her but couldn't. It was a painful, ugly cry, but that was my way of apologizing for lying to her. Why couldn't I just tell her everything? She would understand. But no. Things were never supposed to be simple for me. Were they? Hey. It's all right. Look at me. She hooked a finger under my chin and tilted my face up to look at her. She had tears in her eyes too. It's all right. Okay. 6 months. Why didn't you tell me? I've always wanted you to find someone. I would have understood. She said, her voice cracking. She wiped my tears and pushed stray strands off my face. I don't know. You are the closest thing I have to a family, and I was afraid you wouldn't like him. I'm sorry. I took a choked breath, still not having the guts to look her in the eye. Is he a good guy? Is it safe to move in with him? And phrase. A longer. Well, that was Nora to you. She could take a bad situation and make the best deal out of it. I nodded, afraid that if I spoke, I wouldn't be able to control myself. Okay, she said, smiling down at me. Are you mad at me? I whispered, wiping my wet cheeks and looking at her, gauging her reactions. What? No. Well, maybe a little. And that's because you were sneaking around behind my back with a guy I haven't even met before for 6 freaking months. She smacked me on my arms, her eyes crinkling at the end. I'm sorry about that. She stood up and helped me up too. Well, all that crying worked up an appetite for me. We went back to digging into our now cold dinner. When are you moving? You? In a week, I said, wiping the kitchen counter. Cool. We should do shopping before you move out. You know, to up your vintage wardrobe. We finished the last of the work in the kitchen together. Hey. I was halfway up the staircase when she called for me. I am happy for you. Bells. I'm happy that you found someone. If anyone deserves it, it's you, Bella. You should surely move in with him, she said, a warm smile spreading across her face. Oh. How I wished that was true. That I was actually in love with someone and was making the big move of moving in with him. I gave her a smile anyways. I wished her good night and went into my room, and in the privacy that my closed door provided, I broke down into silent sobs, not bothering to wipe the tears. I laid there awake thinking about all the turns of events. Was I doing the right thing? Should I have told Nora the truth? Stream of such questions whirled like a cyclone inside my head, making my already tired brain fuzzy. And before I knew it, the week passed in a blur, and it was already Saturday night. Nora slept in my room that night. Exactly like my first days in this house when I newly moved in. When I used to have trouble sleeping at night because of nightmares. I read Alice's text saying that Jimmy would pick me up whenever I was ready tomorrow. I placed my phone on the nightstand and turned around facing her. I was wide awake, in the midnight glow of the moon that was seeping through the curtains, watching her sleep, savoring my last night in this home. What was that pounding? Was it a hangover? I wasn't even legal to drive. I woke up realizing that the pounding was from my door. I unwillingly moved the quilt aside and sat up, glaring at the direction of the sound. Nora was standing with one hand on her hip and the other was banging on the door. That was wide open. All the while looking me right in the eye. "Rise and shine, sleepyhead. We have things to pack." She walked in and pulled my duvet that was still covering my legs and walked to my closet, eyeing it for travel bags. "You could have woken me up like a normal human being," I said, still waking up. "You don't think I tried that?" "Apparently, it didn't work. If you sleep like a normal person, I would have woken you up like a normal person," she said, dragging the suitcase to the bed. "Why are you so hyped up? I thought you would be crying in your bedroom corner." "Apparently, I was wrong," I said with a frown. She stopped whatever she was doing and turned around with a strained smile and sat on my bed. "Do you think I will be happy without you? Alone here? All the best memories in my life include you, Bella. In fact, I'll be the one suffering more." I don't want to sound selfish. I admit it. I'm sad, but I'm also happy that my cute little sister has found a boy for her," she said with a small smile. "It was moments like this, Nora, I would miss when I move out. One minute you want to kill her and the next she would say something that would make your heart swell." I walked over to her and hugged her. She hugged me back, gently patting my back. "Ugh. You stink. Go and take a shower. I'll do the packing," she said, pushing me into the bathroom. "I don't stink." I slapped her rear and walked past her into the bathroom. My closet was cleaned out and all my belongings were now neatly arranged in my blue suitcase. When I exited the bathroom, my books and other things were in another bag. She had laid a black skinny jean and a pink top on the bed for changing now. I slipped into my clothes, brushed my hair and went down. "You know you can't go with him if I don't approve, right?" she asked in a serious tone. I stopped on my tracks. He won't be coming here. I guess Jimmy will be picking me up." "What?" She turned around, too fast, removing her eyes from the pan. "He is not making a very good impression," she said, apparently shook. He is kind of busy with a work thing. I promise I'll bring him around sometime," I stammered. "On a Sunday morning." "Fine." She shrugged. She was disappointed. "Well, shit. Later." We both went to my room to take my bags downstairs. It weighed like tons, carrying each. We came tumbling down the stairs and put the bags on the floor with a thud. We were panting like dogs by then. I texted Alice the time and somewhat short version of everything I told Nora and pocketed my phone. We moved around the house, spending the lazy Sunday afternoon together, making lunch. Nora taught me some basic recipes, so I could cook something without poisoning myself. We ate our lunch and chatted for a while. A knock from the front door interrupted our chatting. "That will be Jimmy. I'll get the door," Nora said, leaving the remote with me. I sat on the couch, changing channels on TV. There was no sound of conversation or footsteps. "Nora," I shouted, getting no reply. I stood up and walked to the door, looking through her tense shoulders. I froze in my place. What was he doing here? Nora stood by the door frame, her mouth partly opened in shock. "Hey." He smiled at me and eyed Nora, who still hadn't said a word. "You ready?" he asked me casually with a nod. Nora turned to look at me with a look of pure shock. I stood there looking at both of them and went and stood next to him. I felt the warmth radiating from his body through his white polo t-shirt. Nora. He is Ryan. My, boyfriend. She finished me. I purposefully avoided eye contact and murmured a yes. Excuse us, Ryan. Will you? She snapped out of her trance and dragged me to the kitchen. Why didn't you tell me you knew him before? She whisper-screamed, eyeing the hallway from which we just walked in. Before? What do you mean? You knew him before. Kind of. Yes. She laughed nervously. I looked at her and raised my eyebrows, giving her a care-to-explain look. She sighed. Do you remember the guy from the office I told you about? Blue suit. Greek god. My mouth fell open as I remembered her vivid description of the guy her boss was trying to flirt with. She cringed. In my defense, I didn't know he was your boyfriend, she said, and was shocked when I broke into laughter. You said you wanted to meet him. Right. Well, not like this, I mean. She was cut off by him. May I come in, ladies? I left my jacket in my car and it's kind of cold outside. Shit. He is still standing out. She ran to the door with me hot in her heels. Sorry about that. Come on in. She moved aside. I stood near the stairs watching my extremely interesting toes to avoid meeting his eyes and creating an awkward scene. Is that all? Babe? He asked, looking at the two bags. Oh, Simon, dude. Seriously. Babe. Apparently, Alice told him everything. I gave him a tight smile. Yes. Before I bent down to take them, but he beat me to it, and he grabbed them and carried them both out as if it weighed nothing. Nora and I stood in awkward silence, glancing at each other when he came back in. He came to stand beside me and pulled me into a one-arm hug, casually snaking an arm around my waist. He did so naturally. One would think we had been dating for years. That put a smile on Nora's face. Nora. Right. She nodded. Shit, sorry. Nora. Ryan. Ryan. Nora. I did the customary introduction and stood there while they shook hands. Nora. I know what I'm asking of you. It must be hard for both of you. Trust me, I tried. I just couldn't stay away from her. He gripped me tight and gave me a smile and continued. We are just a phone call away. If you guys want to meet, just say the word. Okay. She nodded, smiling. I will be waiting outside. He kissed me on the forehead, gave Nora a polite nod and went out, closing the door behind him. Nora had a shit-eating grin all the while. I mentally rolled my eyes at him. Just give him an Oscar already. I like him, she said, nodding at the doorway. You already did. I laughed when she visibly shuddered. Ugh. Don't bring that up. And don't tell him about it. I won't if you promise to call me every night. She pouted and pulled me into a hug. Of course I will. We stood there quietly, still reeling in the fact that we wouldn't be sharing an apartment together. She wouldn't be there to get me my towel every time I forget it. I wouldn't be here to bitch with her about her boss. In the 2 years we've known each other, we have grown closer. More than just roommates, into sisters. 2 girls who have found family in each other. We stepped back, sniffing, wiping away the tears. There was a comfortable silence between us that was interrupted by us breaking into giggles. Taking a deep breath, I forced a smile, fighting back the tears. We are still us. Okay. Nothing has to change. I'm just going to be eating and sleeping in a different place. I told her, but more as a reassurance to myself. I know. She handed my shoulder bag and phone, and walked me to the door. I knew I was lying to her about the situation, but few things were better left unsaid. I will miss you, Nora. I had 2 weeks to process it and it still felt strange. I tried hard but a few tears betrayed me and rolled down my cheek. Shh. Don't cry. I'll cry too. I will be in Wood Springs. I'm just 1 call away. I will miss you too. She wiped my tears, and pushed back the stray strands, sticking to my face. Ryan was leaning against his car. I walked down the porch, and he opened the door for me. I was about to step in when Nora called his name. She means everything to me. So, don't you dare hurt her. I might look small, but I know karate. Be good to her. I'll be here to kick your ass. If you don't, she said with a serious matter-of-fact expression on her face. I smiled. While all the huge, brawny guys in the pack house shuddered at his voice. He was threatened by a woman who was about half his size. But if he knew any better, he should be scared. Sure thing. I promise. He was about to round the car when he stopped and looked at her. Lost in thoughts. Walking towards her. He pulled her to a tight hug. I was shocked, and by the looks of it, Nora was too. Thank you. For being understanding, he said, his voice in utter sincerity. She smiled back. He got in and the engine purred to life. It was a foot. Then a few meters, and then she disappeared as the car turned around a corner. Out of my sight. I leaned back against the warm leather and closed my eyes, sighing deeply. The ride was silent. He took occasional glances at me, opening his mouth to say something then deciding against it. I thought Jimmy was supposed to pick me up, I asked, trying to diffuse the awkward silence. He was. I was around so I thought I would come instead, he said, looking at me before focusing on the road. She was nice. Nora. It must be hard for you, he said, his eyes carrying genuine feelings. She is. I smiled. She was too much love packed in a 52 body. Silence engulfed the car. But it was a different kind of silence than it was 5 minutes ago. It wasn't awkward. An old country song filled the space as we drove down a freshly rained road. Through the woods. Soon the pack house came into view. He parked the car and we got out. I went back to take my luggage from the trunk but he stopped me. I will take care of it. A small party of familiar faces stood at the foot of the steps. 2 men rushed past me and carried back my luggage inside. Bella. Alice squealed and hugged me, taking me a few steps back along with her. I'm very happy to have you here, she said, grinning from ear to ear. How is Nora? It was hard but she took it pretty good. Jimmy engulfed me in a bear hug followed by Stacy. Dan nodded at me politely, quickly averting his gaze. I have some things to take care of. Alice and John will show you around. He stood there for a second and made sure that I was okay with it and walked away, discussing something with Jimmy. Dan hot on their heels. I slipped into Alice's arms and walked in front with John trailing behind us typing furiously on his phone. The large entrance hallway flowed into two large, wide staircases that connected the living area of the house to individual private rooms on the above floors. Tall windows. Double high ceiling decorated by a grand chandelier, supported by huge pillars. A fireplace formed the main part of the mansion. The white halls looked even bigger, hauntingly beautiful than it already was as the evening rays of sun lit the corridor. Past an archway was a sitting room with another fireplace. Every single decor approximated the wallpaper and paint colors. We wandered around, coming across many new people I was yet to meet, with her pointing at different rooms and me pulling her to stop to look at every painting mounted on the wall. In short, this house was not big. It is huge. Tall wood-clad glass patio doors opened into an equally impressive backyard. We sat on a stone bench in the backyard garden, resting our legs. John stood leaning against a tree near Alice with his hands in his pant pockets. A small boy, with cookies in both his hands and crumbs all around his mouth, came running towards us. Alice. He stopped. So anyway, Aunt Elena needs you in the kitchen, he said, balancing the cookies in his hands. Alice laughed and John rolled his eyes. I don't talk like that, Cliff, he said, ruffling the boy's hair. You do. Alice stood up and lifted Cliff into her hands. I'll be right back, Bella, she said and walked back into the house. I sent a message to Nora saying that I was getting settled, and that I would call her once I was free. John came to sit behind me on the bench, smiling down at me. Are you comfortable here? He asked, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. Well, I'm always comfortable around my friends. But I think it will take some time to get used to this place, and the fact that your sitting room is bigger than my entire apartment isn't helping either. He laughed. I appreciate what you are doing for us. I might sound like a dick, but I'm happy that Ryan found his mate, and that it's you, he said hesitantly, worrying that might take it in the wrong way. But I was surprised at how everyone cared for him. Besides the fact that he was their alpha, they seemed to care about him as a friend, as a family. I smiled at him. And I want you to know that you can always find a friend in me. Maybe a brother too. I was at a loss for words. I mouthed a thank you at him. He stood up. Come. I'll show you around. Elena is obsessed with Alice and she might be back anytime soon. It was one hell of a long tour.